I still can't wrap my head around the fact that this really happened to me. One morning, I shot awake to the roar of chainsaws and a demolition crew tearing my beautiful lakefront boathouse into shards. And a woman I'd never even spoken to was standing on the shoreline screaming through a megaphone, "This is private property." My boathouse, the one I'd spent 3 years restoring, was reduced to debris in under 4 hours because one HOA Karen decided it offended her aesthetic. What she didn't realize was that I had every legal document possible, and I was about to make her regret ever laying a hand on my property. My name is Jake. I'm 34, and for the last 5 years, I've lived along the quiet edge of Lake Wisteria, a gated community where million-dollar homes cling to the shoreline, and the HOA rules are stricter than a federal lockup. I'm not wealthy like the rest. I'm a carpenter who lucked into flipping a plot of land. My little 1920s boathouse stood on stilt-toed water, original cedar planks, vintage brass fixtures, the kind of place you'd see in glossy magazines. It was my sanctuary, my workshop, and yes, technically my second dwelling. Everyone loved it, except one person. Her name is Cheryl, 50-something, blonde helmet hair, always in pastel tennis skirts, even though no one has ever seen her actually play tennis. She moved in 2 years ago with her plastic surgeon husband and immediately declared herself HOA president because, in her words, someone competent finally arrived. From day one, she targeted anything that didn't look like it belonged in a lifestyle catalog. She fined people for having the wrong shade of beige, forced a guy to remove a birdhouse shaped like his own home because it was kitschy, and once tried to ban kayaks because bright colors ruined the lake's serenity. But my boathouse, she obsessed over it like it insulted her family lineage. She began with anonymous complaints. Unauthorized structure, potential fire hazard, blocks my view of the lake. I paid for. I ignored the letters at first. I had grandfathered permits from 1926, updated in 1998, stamped by the county, the Army Corps of Engineers, even the Department of Natural Resources. My boathouse was legally bulletproof, more compliant than half the mansions around us. Then one Tuesday in June, I came home from a job site and saw orange fencing. A demolition crew was already chaining the support beams. Cheryl stood there in a white visor, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won a prize. I sprinted down the dock, shouting, "Stop! You can't do this." The foreman barely looked up before handing me a cease and desist order with Cheryl's signature stamped at the bottom. She'd filed an emergency injunction claiming my boathouse was moments from collapse and endangering swimmers. Total fabrication. The county inspector had approved it 3 months earlier. I watched them saw my home in half. My vintage Chris Craft runabout toppled into the water and sank. My tools, my grandfather's old Navy trunk. 3 years of memories gone. Cheryl strutted right up to me while pieces of the roof were still falling and announced loudly for the neighbors filming, "Maybe next time you'll learn to follow the covenants, sweetheart." I wish I could tell you I kept my cool. I didn't. I told her exactly what kind of person demolishes someone else's dream over a patch of lily pads. The expression she gave me, pure venom. She leaned in and whispered, "This is my lake now." That night, I sat on the dock staring at the drifting wreckage that used to be my happy place. And I made myself a promise. If Cheryl wanted to go to war with permits and lawyers, then fine, I'd play that game too. Only I wouldn't break a single rule. I opened my laptop, poured a whiskey, and started sketching plans that would make her choke on her morning celery juice. Because what she didn't know was that my grandfathered permits didn't just cover a boathouse. They covered any non-commercial private watercraft-related structure up to 4,000 square feet. And the county had updated zoning 2 months earlier to allow floating homes again. I smiled for the first time all day. She thought she'd won. She had no clue I was about to build something 10 times larger, completely legal, and park it directly in front of her priceless view forever. The following 6 weeks were a battlefield, but the silent kind, where the chaos hits and nobody realizes it until it's too late. Cheryl thought her victory was secured. She uploaded a celebratory selfie to the neighborhood Facebook group. White wine in hand, the sun sinking behind her. Caption read, "Finally preserving the lake's natural charm," garnished with 112 heart emojis from her loyal followers. Meanwhile, I was reveling in the bureaucratic chaos of permits. I hired the sleaziest, priciest environmental attorney in the state, the one who gets megacorporations off the hook for billion-dollar spills. Our meeting? 3 a.m. in his lakefront cabin because, of course, he loved theatrics. I slid across the table the original 1926 riparian rights deed, the revised engineer's approval from '98, and the newly minted floating home ordinance that not a single HOA member had noticed yet. His eyes lit up like a kid in a fireworks show. He said, "Son, this isn't just a rebuild. This is your permission to put the Taj Mahal on pontoons." Phase 1 began with ordering the biggest barge the lake had ever seen, 80 feet long, 40 feet wide, triple-decker, steel hull stuffed with closed-cell foam to withstand a hurricane. Neighbors whispered when 2 semis rolled in, carrying what looked like a small apartment in pieces. Cheryl lost at the day the first section floated in. She stormed down her perfectly manicured lawn in a bathrobe and pink curlers, screaming at a crane operator that this was illegal and she was calling the sheriff. The operator calmly pointed to the giant laminated permit taped inside the cab. She tried to snatch it down. He filmed the entire meltdown. That clip? Still my ringtone. She switched strategies, daily 8 a.m. inspections. She paddled out in a tiny white kayak, neon life vest strapped on, GoPro rolling, circling the barge like a shark seeking blood. One morning, she measured the distance from my build to her dock with laser tape and declared I was 4 inches too close. I nudged it 6 inches farther just to watch her brain short-circuit. Another emergency injunction, tossed by the judge in 10 minutes. Turns out he owns a houseboat himself. Then came the HOA meeting from hell. Cheryl scheduled emergency Thursday sessions, forcing everyone through 3-hour slideshows titled Preserving Property Values. She presented Photoshop horror images of my half-built barge, garbage on the roof, rats the size of small dogs. Tears streamed down her face as she warned about neighborhood comps plummeting. Half the room nodded in fear. The other half secretly texted me memes of her meltdown. The best? She hired a water quality expert, claiming my build was killing the fish. He showed up in a lab coat and sampled water directly below her septic tank, leaking for 6 months. Lab results? Fish were dying, but definitely not my fault. The barge kept growing. Bottom deck. Workshop twice the size of my old boathouse, plus garage for 3 boats. Middle deck. Full kitchen. Living room with 20-foot glass walls. Master suite bigger than my house. Top deck. Hot tub, outdoor kitchen. Putting green with real turf. And a 30-foot stainless steel flagpole, because why not? Every nail, wire, light fixture. Code perfect. Inspected, signed, laminated. I even made the inspectors coffee. They started bringing donuts. Cheryl's last desperate move came the night. She paid 2 teenagers $500 each to sneak out and spray paint. Trailer trash vandals across my pristine cedar siding. Cameras everywhere, top-tier 4K night vision. The kids cracked in 10 seconds when the sheriff arrived. Turns out one was the HOA treasurer's kid. Cheryl denied it, naturally, but the Venmo transfer from Cheryl Wisteria Queen was hard to argue. By week 8, the floating mansion was 90% finished. I named her the Last Laugh. White oak floors, quartz countertops, floor-to-ceiling windows perfectly aligned with Cheryl's backyard. I even installed motorized blinds, ready to drop at a button press if I ever decided to grant her privacy. Spoiler, I never will. The day we floated her into place, half the neighborhood showed up with lawn chairs and beers. Cheryl stood on her balcony, clutching her wine so tightly I thought it would shatter. I fire up 8 hidden hydraulic thrusters, ease the mansion forward inch by inch, and parked it precisely 12.1 feet from her property line, the legal max. Then I hit the remote. Every exterior light blazed on. 40,000 lumens of pure LED vengeance aimed at her house. I waved. She dropped her wine glass, shattering it beautifully on her Italian marble. She had no idea why I was grinning so wide. The real surprise wasn't the size of the mansion. It was what I quietly purchased a week after she destroyed my old boathouse. The 200-foot wide submerged land beneath her dock, seawall, and half her backyard. Turns out, when you ruin someone's dream, sometimes the lake fights back. On the official christening of the floating mansion, I invited the entire neighborhood, except one, onto the top deck for a housewarming on water, bluegrass band, whole pig roasting. Open bar stock with everything. Cheryl sulked from her balcony like a gargoyle, arms crossed so tight her knuckles went white. I raised my glass and smiled the sweetest smile I've ever smiled. That night, after the last guest left and the lake mirrored the stars, I sent her the letter I'd carried for 8 weeks. Certified mail, return receipt requested. 1 page inside, the quitclaim deed to the submerged land beneath her waterfront. 200 feet wide, running from a high water mark to the navigation channel. Her dock, seawall, boathouse, manicured lawn, all on my property. I bought it at a tax auction for $11,400 a week after she destroyed my boathouse. Counted seized it in '97 after the previous owner died. Nobody paid the $38 annual lease. It sat forgotten for 28 years. I found it because I wanted payback. In our state, if you don't own the land under your dock, you're a tenant, and the owner can charge rent or revoke permission entirely. The letter gave her 30 days to remove every encroaching structure or pay $15,000 monthly in lease fees, the market rate for prime lakefront. Screaming started at 7:12 a.m. next morning. I sipped coffee on the top deck, watching the sunrise paint her house pink, when Cheryl stormed out in a silk robe, waving the letter like it was on fire. She waded into the water, yelling my name. I pressed a button to drop the 85-inch TV from the ceiling, turned on the outdoor speakers, and played Sweet Revenge by John Prime at perfectly legal 8 a.m. volume. She lawyered up instantly. Her attorney called mine before lunch. My guy laughed so hard, he put on speaker. Turns out Cheryl's title insurance specifically excludes submerged land. Her multi-million-dollar mansion would be uninsurable once I filed a trespass claim. She tried everything. Midnight begging calls, fake tears at the clubhouse, even baked banana bread with a note. Can't we be neighbors? I fed the bread to the ducks and sent her the video. By day 29, her dock was half dismantled, seawall cracking as supports were removed. The gentle slope of her backyard now ended in a 6-foot muddy drop. Her husband moved for work. By day 31, the for sale sign went up $800,000 below their purchase price. I lowered the lease demand to $1 per year on the condition she never contacts me or attends HOA meetings again. She signed with trembling hands at the county clerk's office, while the receptionist pretended not to watch. Last I heard, Cheryl moved to an Arizona condo. No water deep enough for a revenge palace. My floating mansion still sits exactly where I left it. Last month, I added a 12-foot illuminated sign on the roof, facing her remaining backyard. It's on a timer. Every sunset, soft blue letters light up, visible from space. Careful what you tear down. The lake remembers. Some nights, I sit in a hot tub, cold beer in hand, watching the water lap at the putting green. Neighbors wave as they cruise by. Every time the sun hits that sign, just right, I swear I hear the faint echo of a wine glass shattering on Italian marble. Sweetest sound I've ever heard. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe. Every single subscription pushes me to share even more dramatic HOA tales. Don't forget the bell icon so you never miss an upload. I'll see you in the next story, where justice gets even sweeter.